And welcome to another edition of What's Up Podcast with Ryan Belmore. I am Ryan Belmore. Yes, it has been a little while since our last podcast. I can promise moving forward we will be doing it much more frequently and much more often, as I know a lot of our fans have reached out through What's Up Noop as well as What's Up Rhode Island to find out when are you guys going to start podcasting again. We miss your interviews. We miss your highlights on people's profiles and conversations. So we are back. We have a new look. We have a new name. And we have a new game plan here for podcasts. You're probably looking at this one and saying, why do I care about this conversation? Well, let's get to it. I know you're wondering, why have I heard about or why should I care about Royal Perth Yacht Club? Where is it? What is it? Why do I care about it listening to in Newport or in Rhode Island? Well, you may remember or lived through or been there for that moment when in 1983, and after 132 years, the America's Cup was won by a team that wasn't from the United States. That's right. After 132 years, and after Newport hosted the America's Cup for a good 50 or so years, a little team from Australia came into our backyard and took the cup away. And that team was Australia too, which was fielded by the Royal Perth Yacht Club. And it shocked the world. They won. And they won in 1983. And then they went on to host it in Fremantle in Perth, Australia. On a current trip I'm on, I got a chance to stop into Fremantle as well as Perth, which is about 11,000 miles away from Newport. And of course, I saw the name, Royal Perth Yacht Club, in a walk early one morning and said, I need to reach out to them. And they were kind enough to invite me in for an interview as well as a tour of their yacht club. And I was also able to see Australia too in the Western Australian Maritime Museum this week. And as well as I will have some other conversations coming up about it as well. And, 1983 was when we lost. They hosted it here in Fremantle in 1987. The community reminds me a lot of Newport. I actually reached out to a city council member from Newport this week and said, have we ever thought about making this another sister city? It is a town that is bustling with tourism, fishing, sailing, yachting, and it is just a great little community. If you ever get a chance to get here to Western Australia, you'll feel a little Newport and a little Rhode Island here in this community. Royal Perth Yacht Club is steeped in history. It is one of the third oldest in Australia, as well as top 25 oldest in the world. They can trace their origins back to 1841 and their history as a yacht club, and also some of their successes. It isn't just the America's Cup. They are successful in sailing. They've produced Olympians, sailors that have sailed around the world several times. One of the gentlemen you'll hear about in this podcast today is John Sanders, and he currently holds the record for the longest distance ever sailed continuously by any vessel. He did a triple non-stop solo circumnavigation from 86 to 88. He sailed 657 days, 21 hours, and he is getting ready for his 11th circumnavigation of the globe. And you'll hear a little bit about that here on today's podcast. I sat down with Stuart Walton at the Royal Perth Yacht Club in Crowley, Australia. And he took the time to sit down with me, give me a tour, was so gracious with his time. Cannot thank Stuart as well as the Royal Perth Yacht Club for their hospitality. And here you can listen to his thoughts and memories of the America's Cup victory, which, their history with the America's Cup isn't just the win. If you visit their website, you can read a lot more about it, but RYPC.com The club's established history is based on a deep sense of tradition, which was further enhanced by the winning of the 83 Challenge for the America's Cup. It had organized it had put 5 different boats out for America's Cup. In 1974, they put Southern Cross. In 77 and 80, they put Australia. In 83, they put Australia 2. And in 87, they put Kookaburra 3, which was, of course, based right here. But in a quote here, it had been organized many successful championships for international keelboat and dinghy classes, but could this club at the opposite side of the world from New York Yacht Club, without a presence on the open water of Fremantle, where the event was to be sailed, conduct an America's Cup? The answer was, of course, yes. And you'll hear a lot about the America's Cup, and I got a chance to, again, tour the Yacht Club as well as see Australia too. This is the audio version of the interview. When I put a full story up on whatsupnoob.com, I'll include this audio. I'll include the photos from the museum, and I'll include the photos from the Royal Perth Yacht Club. It has certainly been exciting to see all of these pieces, as well as chat about the America's Cup. So Stuart and I will talk about his America's Cup victory, the America's Cup victory, what the 83-7 win meant for this area, what the 87 loss meant for this area, his thoughts on the current state and future of sailing and yacht clubs, and much more. Here is Stuart Walton, General Manager of the Royal Perth Yacht Club, and myself chatting about all things sailing from Australia. Good. Or something of the sense here. And I was looking at the history, and third oldest yacht club in Australia?
We claim to be.
To be. And I've seen
other little upstarts.
1841, 1851,
1865 is when we were formally formed, but you can trace a group of men sailing together from the facility from 1846.
Wow.
That period, the club was at the foot of the city, where you would have been to Elizabeth Quay, which is a new development. It was just off to one side of Elizabeth Quay, and it was there till 1952. And then some idiot in the government decided to build a bridge across the river, and that screwed sailing up.
Wow.
So the government happily transferred us to this site, which was a very interesting site during World War II. It was actually the base of the Catalina flying boats.
Okay.
From here. And when we took the site on, there were two massive aircraft hangars.
Wow.
On this site where they'd pull them up out of the water and service them. And that was jointly with the US Air Force and Qantas.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a historic site. In that
it is. And I was looking at some lists, and top 25 oldest yacht clubs in the world. I think some lists have you around 23.
Yeah.
That's old. If I look back at home...
I'm going to the oldest in September.
Are you?
Yeah.
What's bringing you there?
Cork.
Yeah.
Royal Cork claim to be the oldest in the world, although there's a Russian club who are arguing whether that's right or not. Forget that, they're Russians.
Yeah.
They are celebrating their 300th anniversary in September this year, and I'm going over for it.
How neat is that? It's almost like a brotherhood or a family, yacht clubs across the world.
It is, and I think what is wonderful, there is I don't know if you've heard of it, an organisation called the ICOYC, International...
Saw it on the way in here, and Newport, New York Yacht Club, Harbor Court is up on there.
Yeah. It's basically about 35 of the so-called top yacht clubs around the world. You're invited to join it. You don't ask to join. We're honoured to be members of it, and we meet about every 18 months, alternating North and South Hemisphere. We came back, we did it in California last time, in San Francisco.
Okay.
But this time we're doing it in Cork in September to join with the Royal Cork Yacht Club for their 300th celebrations. But what that organisation does, it brings us so close to some of the world's major yacht clubs. The relationships that people like me then build with, whether it be Royal Thames, whether it be Royal Hong Kong, whether it be St Francis, whatever it is just so valuable. It's unbelievable.
Do you find that most of them have the same mission?
And oddly, we all share the same problems.
Yeah.
We're all, our fundamental goals are all the same. Engage more youth, increase participation, develop women in sailing. Every club within that group has the same goal. What it makes me feel is, it's not just us that's suffering in these spaces, it's the whole world. So we get together, we think tank ideas, how are things we can try to generate more interest from youth and women in particular. Because the world's changed, the landscape's changed. People in their 25 to 40 year age bracket, they've got a pretty short attention span, in my view. You're probably in that bracket.
I am.
Yeah, well, I'm way past it.
It's okay.
So I'm all right. The days of, aspiring to own a yacht and buying one and maintaining it are slipping away somewhat. There's a lot more interest in co-ownership of yachts.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 guys get together and own it and share it. They may all sail together when they're racing it. Cuts maintenance cost and time commitment. So it makes sense. And I'm of the firm view that we're going to see more and more of that as time goes on.
We have a great organization back home called Sail Newport, which actually started after the loss of America's Cup. Yeah. Started in, let's see here, we're going to go with 1984, 1985. Sail Newport was started, and they are all about working on the goals that you just, or the struggles that you guys have. Yeah. Is they are bringing sailing in. Every child that goes through Newport Public Schools in a 3rd grade, 5th grade, every single child has the opportunity to go out sailing on the water. Good. They work to get kids out there. They work to get women out there. And, that is just one thing that came out of the America's Cup loss in Newport, is this giant organization which just got a $500,000 matching grant the other day to help promote sailing to everybody in Rhode Island, New England. Yeah. And they're focusing on those things, and probably for those reasons. I'm sure they hear from Newport Yacht Club and New York Yacht Club and Ida Lewis, and that they need this help.
Absolutely. I mean, we all do. We try to work on programs with schools, particularly the private schools locally. Some are quite good at it, trying to encourage them to make sailing part of the curriculum. Why not? It's a healthy sport. Yeah. And, most of Perth's population lives pretty close to the water.
Yeah, we're looking out here. We can see downtown Perth. Yeah. And then approximately how many boats off the front here of Royal Perth Yacht Club?
There's 400 in this marina.
400, and then you have an annex back in Fremantle.
With another 100. Yeah.
It's a large organization.
500 wet docks in your term.
And all members?
Have to be.
Yeah, you have to be a member.
Yeah, it's a private club. I mean, we're controlled under legislation in terms of how we can operate. But yeah, you have to be a member to have a boat here.
And just some backstory. How long have you been involved with the Royal Perth Yacht Club?
I've been in this role as its GM since 2000.
Okay, so it's 19 years. Yeah. Coming up on a big year in 2020.
Well, it is, and I'm 67. I don't hide my age. Yeah. People say, when are you going to retire? My answer is, I have no intention of retiring. Why? Because I enjoy what I do. I have a passion for the club. The members are fabulous. We've got fabulous staff. We're just about, in about 3 weeks' time, to let a $6.5 million refurbishment contract on this building. Okay. Which is going to transform it, make it absolutely fabulous. Why would you want to retire and leave that?
Yeah, things are looking up right now.
I want to see that project through. So unless our board comes to me and says, Stuart, I think you've lost the plot, time to go, in which case I'll say, fine, I'm on. I'll keep going. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Keep the brain active, that's my view.
You've seen, interest, I guess, based on your goals, you've kind of seen interest dip off in sailing and boating?
Very much so. I mean, if I go, we were talking about this last night, in the summer months we have a twilight sail every Thursday. Starts at 6 o'clock. No spinnakers, simple jam fleet. Course, depending on the wind, hour and a half, roughly, just on the river. If I go back 15 years ago, we'd have 80 yachts out on a Thursday night. Tonight, we'll be lucky if we have 20. Wow. That's a big difference. Very big difference. Nothing else has changed in terms of what we offer them, because after the sailing we do a barbecue on the lawn and the downstairs bar's open, and it's at night you can imagine what the view